Greetings. I am Dr. Paulina Van, the author of Regala Healing, an evocative approach for self-care, self-understanding, and inner healing. And I have the honor of hosting this show, The Poetry of Healing. I want to welcome you from all over the world, and we'd love to know where you're joining from, so please put it in the chat if you don't mind. Well, we are in the month of June, and among the many celebrations, men are central to these activities. This segment is special. It's a special Father's Day program dedicated to men. And ladies out there, I invite you to share the segment with the men in your life. You know, although Father's Day was first celebrated in the United States in 1910, it became an official holiday in 1972. Therefore, this third Sunday in June, we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of an official holiday honoring fathers and father figures. Today's show is all about men and meditation. Our special guests are two phenomenal men who practice meditation. They will join us later in the program to give us an up-close and personal glimpse of their reflective practices. And so today I ask you to join us and embrace the goals for this session. So with our guests, we will take a look behind the scenes at specific situations and conditions that motivate men to meditate. We'll also learn about their meditation activities and what personal benefits they have realized from meditation. We're going to tap into their wisdom with tips for other men to begin or enhance their meditation practice. And then we will end as usual, but this time with a meditation designed for men. We always begin with a centering exercise to help us focus and collect our energy for this time together, a time for you, a gift to yourself. This meditation, I also call it a centering activity, will take about 2 minutes. And it's going to help us to settle into the space so we can be fully present. And for those of you who've been with me before, we're going to practice heart math, heart-focused breathing, so you're familiar with it, that it opens your heart. So as always, when we do centering or meditation, it's an invitation. So I invite you to join me with this heart-focused breathing. So we're going to begin by lowering our gaze or closing our eyes or just having a soft gaze on a stationary object. Okay? And I'm going to ask you to focus your attention on your heart area. That's the left side of your chest. Or just focus on your chest area if that's more comfortable for you. You might want to put your hand over the left side of your chest to help you to bring that focus. I want you to imagine when you take a breath through your nose. So you're going to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. I want you to imagine when you breathe in through your nose that your heart is actually taking that breath. So you breathe in and your heart expands, and you breathe out and your heart gets smaller. Okay, so let's try this. Imagine your breath is flowing in and out of your heart or chest area. And you're going to breathe a little slower and deeper each time. It might help if you count when you breathe in. So you might count breathing in through your nose 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And then breathe out through your mouth 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. If you need a quicker inhale and exhale, then count to 4. Those athletic types out there, you may want to count to 6. Take another deep breath in through your nose, expanding that beautiful heart of yours, and then out through your mouth. Okay? And now I'd like you to take a deep breath in, slow, deep breath, to notice you are here. Take another deep breath in to notice how your body feels right now. And then one last deep breath to enter the session. Okay, all right. For those of you who have just joined us, I am Dr. Paulina Van, author of Regala Healing, an evocative approach for self-care, self-understanding, and inner healing, and the host of this show, The Poetry of Healing. Today's show is all about men and meditation, and you're just in time to meet our guests. And so I'd like to welcome to the show Dr. Koinis Enix and Mr. Mr. William Jamal Miller. So good day, gentlemen. How are you?
Hello, Dr. Van.
Good.
Oh, great, great. Well, without further ado, I want us to get right into the topic because I want to make sure we use every moment we have with your thoughts. So we're going to talk about meditation and men this morning. And I have 4 questions for you. I don't know your answers, so this is going to be interesting. And so we're just going to talk about it. But so that we can have a level playing field, I just want to define meditation and mindfulness for our audience. And so we're not going to kind of tease them apart. Meditation and mindfulness are basically the same concept. And mindfulness is a form of meditation. So they both in both activities, you are directed to quiet your mind by either saying a mantra or using your breath like we did earlier, or using visualizations. Also, they both in both of them, you make observations, and so moment to moment awareness of your thoughts and feelings and bodily sensations, the environment. With mindfulness, you add just another aspect, and that is accepting what you're paying attention to without thoughts or feelings of judging them, whether they're right or wrong in the given moment. So, Dr. Enix, would you like to add anything to that? Or Jamal, did I cover it okay?
Uh, Thank you very much, Dr. Van.
Mm-hmm.
For your audience, my name is Dr. Koinis Enix. I am a physician. I am a cardiac surgeon and a specialist in cardiovascular diseases. And I would say that for me, meditation is a set of practices and some cultures' methods designed to achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm and stable state.
Mm-hmm.
There are multiple ways of doing that. Mindfulness is one way, yoga is another way, deep breathing. But for me, I define meditation for myself as a set of practices, and for me, designed to achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm and stable state.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Enix. And thank you for introducing yourself. I have just jumped right into the topic. So thank you so much for that. It's a very important clarification, description that our viewers can really embrace. So Jamal, please introduce yourself and add anything to the definition that would be helpful.
Yes, for sure. Well, good morning and good afternoon, good evening to everyone who is online with us today. And I'm really honored to be here with you all. I am William Jamal Miller, a native of Sacramento, California, and professionally, I am the Chief Administrative Officer for Dignity Health Mercy Medical Group here in Sacramento, California. I am a husband, a father. I am the youngest of a total of 4 boys. My mother and father, Bill and Yvonne Miller, have celebrated 53 years of marriage. Faith is a fundamental component of my upbringing and my current existence. And when I think about the definition and the meaning of meditation and mindfulness, both you, Dr. Van, as well as Dr. Enix have framed it extremely well. The application of meditation for me has just really been life-changing. I'm really looking forward to talking a bit more about it today. And again, just really honored to be here to have this important conversation during such an important week where we share and uplift men who are fathers, not only biologically, but those who are fathers in their community, as well as to extended family and friends alike.
Thank you, Jamal. Very important share about lifting up not only biological fathers, but fathers who just support families, individuals, and the community. So thank you. And I didn't realize you came from such a big family. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, you know what? I'm going to jump into the first question, but I want to give a little background before I ask you the question. So, there's clearly, at least in the United States, a gender imbalance when it comes to practicing meditation. About 12% of men and 16% of women meditate regularly. Okay. And so, there are multiple reasons for the disparity, but I'm going to, before I ask you the question, I'm going to make a few statements to kind of set the tone that might explain these disparities. So, a belief is that men tell you what is on their minds, but not what is in their hearts. So they struggle with expressing empathy and compassion. Then another myth or thought stereotype is that it's dangerous for a man to be vulnerable. Okay? And then meditation is not practical because men tend to prefer a hands-on task with tangible results. And then lastly, our last stereotype is meditation attracts women and needy men. Okay. So my question to you is, what was your motivation to begin a meditation practice? So I'm going to start with ask Dr. Enix to start. And Dr. Enix is going to give you the perspective, and I have their permission to say this. So his perspective from an 80-year-old man who started meditating about a year ago. And Jamal is going to give his perspective of a man in his 40s who has been meditating for some time. So, Dr. Enix, will you begin just reflecting on this question? What was your motivation to begin a meditation practice?
Excellent question. For me, it came about because of a personal anxiety. And that personal anxiety was, before meditation, claustrophobia.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I had never thought about claustrophobia because I've always considered it to suggest a weakness. I discovered that I had an ailment that required an MRI. And once I learned that the MRI, which is a test, it is an imaging test that can find abnormalities in the body. Once I learned that it required an immensely or a tremendous claustrophobic environment, because your body is in a small tube with very little space around you, it caused me an enormous amount of anxiety to think about it. So through reading and through counseling with friends, I discovered that claustrophobia, like so many naturally occurring anxieties, can be helped through meditation. And I was quite skeptical initially, not fully understanding what meditation meant, or not fully, even as a physician, understanding the connection between meditation and physiology, which we can get into at some point during this discussion. But once I realized that meditation was real, not just snake oil or hocus pocus, once I realized that it was real and had a physiologic as well as a historic nature, I embraced it and discovered over time that it was enormously beneficial, not only for my specific problem that I had at the time of claustrophobia, but it was enormously beneficial in general when practiced correctly, because it definitely can help anyone achieve mentally clear and emotional calmness.
Mm-hmm. And so that was about a year ago?
Actually, it's been closer with COVID. It's easy to kind of get confused with time. It's actually been closer to 2 years.
Okay. All right. And what's the first thing you did to help you to embrace meditation as real? What was there a defining activity or fact or conversation that said yes, or something you read?
I would say both of those.
Mm-hmm.
A particular fact and a particular instance. So to answer your question in the order that you posed your question, I would say what I first did was listened to calming stories at night before going to bed. Now, again, this is just one small type of meditation. I see meditation as a large body of practices differently by different people, different cultures, different countries. But they all have in common the effect on the autonomic nervous system. That is the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. The fight or flight mechanism, the fight or flight responses. If you can counter that fight or flight response, it has a calming effect because of the physiologic effect of the parasympathetic nervous system.
Can you break that down? So it's really a stress response. It's
yes. It is, first of all, as human beings, we are a compilation of both physical and emotional notions that go back millions of years. And of course, one of the first protective mechanisms was the fight and flight response to take ourselves out of danger. And certain things happen to the organism or to the individual when this response is triggered. Your heartbeat increases, you sweat, you feel anxious, your muscles tense. All of these things are designed to protect yourself. But in today's environment, they're also associated with stress. And if you find yourself in a stressful environment and you don't have the wherewithal or the know-how to deal with it, then you can easily tip over into a situation where you are just, to use a colloquial term, stressed out. And what does that mean? Your blood pressure is up. You feel anxious. Now, what many people do, what many men do, and women for that matter, who don't have good emotional coping skills, turn to other ways to soothe their feelings, such as alcohol, or such as drugs, or such as being mean to everyone around them. These are mechanisms that we use to make ourselves at peace. But if more people understood the physiologic basis of meditation and understood how to practice it, then I believe there would be fewer health issues, such as hypertension, or heart attacks, or strokes, or kidney failure, or gastrointestinal problems. All of these physiologically based problems can have their origin in the sympathetic, parasympathetic nervous system, which can be modified through meditation.
Oh, Dr. Enix. Okay, now. So it's like, you broke it down. You broke it down to the cell level. And it's like, and I want to share with the audience, it's like being prayed up. Meditation is like being prayed up. You provide a foundation and a human environment where you are responding to situations that may cause you stress or push you over the edge. You're, instead of reacting, having your blood pressure go up and all the other things that Dr. Enix explained. So thank you. So we've looked at the adverse effects of if you don't have a meditation practice, and in a little bit we're going to look at the benefits. But I want to go to Jamal, and Jamal in his 40s and practicing meditation for a bit. What was your initial motivation to begin a meditation practice?
Yes, well, thank you first for breaking it down, Dr. Enix. I'm learning already. My journey, it's been a journey. When I think about this is my 24th year working in healthcare, and 1998 is when I started my career. 2003 is when I got married, my first marriage. And a few years later, had 2 daughters. And the point that I'm making is cumulatively, over time, life happens. The good, bad, ugly, good, the indifferent, things happen in life. And the pressures of life tend to culminate. And even though I grew up and still practice very actively my Christian faith, when you live in an ecosystem where you live, learn, work, play, and pray, where you naturally, feel those pressures of life, and you layer on top of that intersectional dynamic of being a Black man in corporate America or in society at large, it creates a dynamic by which there's a public health term called the weathering effect. And when you live life, weathering is real in mind, body, and spirit, as far as the adverse impact that you have or that you experience as you take on additional responsibility in your home, in your community, on the job, putting that good education to work, making more money, taking on those added responsibilities. And there's a great deal of pressure or responsibility that comes with that. And the manifestation of that hit me first along this journey of ultimately finding and adding to my arsenal meditation. It hit me first around 2004, 2005, when I started to experience and notice a shift and a change in my emotional and psychological disposition. And that was the first time I started to do therapy. I started to see Dr. Paul Vance. He wouldn't mind me using his name. I still see him from time to time, incorporating talk therapy to get a sense of what was going on with me in my life at that particular time. And among other things, we identified that I was dealing with mild depression. And again, going to church every week, studying the word, praying, exercising regularly, which I still do to this day. But with life comes new and different kinds of experiences. And that was new for me to be able to identify, like, oh, this is depression. Depression has shown up in my life. How do I deal with something that has stigma attached to it, that I'm really not as familiar with, even as a healthcare a leader and professional at that time? And therapy helped me to unpack and identify, not only what depression is, but also how to constructively, positively, favorably deal in the short and long term with those kinds of dynamics. When we fast forward to the benefits of engaging therapy and adding that to my arsenal at that particular time, a few years later, a colleague of mine that I worked with at Sutter Health. I was at Sutter Health at the time. Her name is Dr. Maxine Barish. She's an internal medicine doc. And we were having a casual conversation one day, and she was asking me how I was doing. And I said, I'm doing pretty good, having some swallowing issues. At that particular time, I started to develop what is called achalasia. And it was my food and drink was kind of sticking. And when I would swallow my food or drink, it would stick for a period of time. And I started talking to her about that. And she said, you might want to, look, she's like, how's your life going? How's everything going at home, in your personal life? And I started to tell her some things that were going on. She said, because that experience you're having with your swallowing, she said, it might be indicative or a symptom of stress. And I said, you might be onto something there. So at that time, I started some alternative therapies to Western medicine. I did acupuncture for the first time and did research on that before I just jumped in. And again, all on this journey of trying to identify healing, still praying, still doing those things to exercise and practice my faith, but adding to my arsenal to counter the weathering effect of just living life personally, professionally, civically, in mind, body, and spirit. So if I'm fast forwarding through that journey of, therapy and, at acupuncture during that time, I ultimately needed a surgical intervention to relieve my swallowing issue. But I directly attribute that to a certain level of stress that I had internalized at that time in my life. And ultimately was able to move beyond that with the combination of both clinical, traditional, and non-traditional approaches to that. So fast forward to 2012, 2013, right around that time, I started to incorporate on a regular basis my daily readings, daily reflections, tied to a book that I had read around that time called Wild at Heart by John Eldridge, out of the Ransom Heart publishing house. It's a very powerful faith-based book. It talks about the strength of our healthy masculinity, as it was intended to be and designed by God. And that coincided with these daily reflections that would come out. That's scripture based and provide some inspirational readings on a daily basis. So I started to do that. And then one day, one of the readings was about the 1 minute pause. And the 1 minute pause was very powerful to me because it talked about the day-to-day rat race. We have these mobile devices, and how many of us every day, the first thing in the morning when we wake up, pick up that phone, check the email, check text messages, check the news, do any and everything else, get dressed, shower, whatever, go to work, do dinner. We just check off the boxes all day. And before we know it, we're so tired and depleted by the end of the night. All we can do is just shut down, go to bed, and we wake up the next day and do it again without having been intentional about taking time, according to this daily reading, to do at least a 1 minute pause, to be present, to be mindful, and to meditate. And coinciding with that 1 minute pause was the launch of a mobile app called the Pause app out of the Wild at Heart Ransom Heart Publishing. And we fast forward to late 2020, early 2021 is when I committed to officially incorporate the use of the 1 minute pause, which is on a every other day basis, because I'll talk and keep it brief about what my regimen is now, because I now do 10-minute pauses. So if we look back at my activity of incorporating meditation on a regular basis into my life, first of all, it's rooted in my Christian faith, because the issue with meditation and mindfulness, scripture talks about it. So there's so much about meditation in the word, but it, for the most part, has been detached in two ways from our faith, in that other religions or faiths or movements out there kind of have owned meditation, so much so that within our community, sometimes when we hear meditation, there's a negative stigma tied to it. But for me, it became powerful because I'm like, okay, the 1 minute pause, looking at scripture, like this is steeped and rooted in the faith that I practice all of my life. So I should be doing this in addition to prayer, but just in addition to the tools that I've added to my arsenal. So I made a commitment in May of 2021. I downloaded this 1 minute pause. 1 minute pauses turned into 5 minute pauses. 5 minute pauses turned into 10-minute pauses. So my routine now is literally every other day. I wake up somewhere between 5 and 6 without an alarm. I go downstairs. I stretch. I do my 10-minute pause. All of this takes about 30 minutes, and I do all of this before I go do my 3-mile run and my workout. And to date, over the last year, I have about 115-minute pauses, which has accumulated to over 930 minutes total. And it keeps track of my mobile app. Now that's mine. I know people who meditate for like an hour, 30 minutes, and it works for them. But that carved out time for me to start my day every day with getting aware of my breathing patterns, my diaphragm, understanding that I'm walking around all day tensed up, not breathing. But let me start my day breathing, being at peace, doing a meditation that's rooted in scripture, and starting my day off right, because I'm going to encounter the negative, the good, the bad, the ugly throughout the course of the day. But the foundational start of my day will set the tone and the tenor for how I'm going to go about life. And I have reaped spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental benefit from that, even before that. Other positive things I'd added, I reap benefits to that. So it's been cumulative. It's been a journey But the countering effect to where life is going to be challenging enough. And it's a constant reminder during those pauses that so many things that stress us out, that apply pressures to us, that ecosystem where we live, learn, work, play, and pray, can be countered by just doing the little things of taking time to hear that still small voice, to get in tune with who is most important from a vertical standpoint, so that we can take on the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities of being a husband, father, friend, son, fraternity member, whatever it might be, to be a productive, person in society. And from that, I find strength in being vulnerable, knowing that I don't have to have all the answers, but I know the one who does have all the answers. And it's been enriching. It's helped my light, I believe, to shine brighter. And it's just helped me be overall a better person. So that is the latest piece that I've added to my arsenal, and meditation consistently tied to my workout, tied to prayer, sometimes just sitting still and breathing to take in versus always putting out or always making my requests known. That has been a very powerful component of my life, and I share it with friends, and just bearing witness to the benefits of those things. And I try to destigmatize it, because I tell friends, they're like, "Oh, you do that, Jamal?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do that." And it doesn't make me perfect by any stretch. I may push it up to 30 minutes one day, but for now, this works. And tying it back to, as I close quickly, to what Dr. Ennick said, I mean, it's real. When you think about health inequities and disparities, particularly for Black and African American men and women, even if you control for socioeconomic status, there's a reason why Black women who have PhDs are experiencing higher levels of maternal mortality or morbidity. And the same for men, who are well educated, who are even physicians, but Black physician men dying sooner than their white male counterparts. And that's that weathering effect, the internalization of dealing with racism, discrimination, even when we get used to burning at a high level to where our adrenaline rates or our cortisol, stress hormone is up here, but we're used to it. We're resilient. We're strong. That wears us out on the inside. It puts pressure on our organs. And then you look at the top 5 reasons why we die sooner, whether it's cancer, heart failure, diabetes, so on and so forth. It makes sense. So we have to counter those ecosystem dynamics that adversely affect us, and flip the narrative, shift the narrative. It's not going to fix everything, but it's going to enhance life in ways that we can't necessarily quantify.
Well, Jamal, I'm not even going to recap that, but I just want to say to you, thank you for bringing up so many critical aspects of the Black male experience in the United States, and giving affirmations to the fact that, if you have a religious or spiritual life, if you exercise, you go to therapy, and thank you for affirming therapy for men. Um, there's still a place for meditation in the overall mental health. And thank you for giving us, both of you, giving us the context of your life experience, because then our viewers can connect to what you're saying. You have both talked about meditation being just one aspect. Jamal, you refer to it as your arsenal, and Dr. Enix, you refer to it as, I believe, a group of practices or processes. So it's important for everyone to know, even though meditation does provide miracles, okay, it's not itself the miracle maker. It's what you do with the whole. So thank you very, very much. And Dr. Enix, I'd like to give you an opportunity to share at least some of the benefits, maybe a couple of your practices and some of the benefits that you have experienced from meditation. But before you do that, those of you who are just joining us, we have two special guests, Dr. Coyness Enix and Mr. William Jamal Miller, who are talking about men and meditation. And we're going over a little bit. The show is usually 30 minutes, but we're going over a little bit so that we can really embrace what these two phenomenal men have to share about meditation and men. And so, Dr. Enix, a couple of your meditation activities and any personal benefits that you've realized.
Yes. Well, number one, I would like to stress the connection between the body and the mind, meditation, and what we do physically, and the autonomic nervous system. To stress the fact that all of this has a physiologic basis. First of all, I'd like to express my deep gratitude to Jamal for discussing his testimony. It was quite moving and quite helpful for me, because I know from a physiologic perspective, the autonomic nervous system controls many things, including the blood pressure. And remember, Black men have hypertension or high blood pressure to American Black men have hypertension and high blood pressure to a far greater extent than other men across the globe. But the autonomic nervous system, in addition, controls digestion. It controls metabolism, urination, defecation, how we breathe. So there's little doubt in my mind that meditation, which, by the way, is one of the components of yoga, has a palliative effect on the distresses that can come to the mind, and therefore the stresses that can come to the body. So if you consider meditation as a set of practices, then just as Jamal talked about his 1 minute or 10-minute break, the fact that he also exercises on his 3-mile run, that is also a form of meditation, in that it definitely supports in a positive way the physiology of the body. It has a calming effect on the body and the mind. And so exercise, yoga, prayer, all of these are mechanisms or practices that one can do that can come under the general title of meditation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so as we close, this has been an inspiring, educational, humbling discussion. And I just thank both of you. But I'd like to know if you could at least give one tip to a man who's considering beginning a meditation practice, adding it to his arsenal, or someone who wants to enhance their practice. So I'm going to begin with you, Jamal, if you can just give a tip.
Yes. A tip to a beginner is first, know that you matter. You matter. You have significant value. And when you matter, You have to invest in yourself, and it's not always about money or buying things. It's not about material gain. So be intentional about just taking time out to care for yourself. Um, and being intentional about the fact that we have so much noise in our minds, in our lives, in our surroundings, that you have to be patient as a beginner and take steps before you can run towards hardwiring mechanisms, ways by which, practices of therapy, meditation, finding peace, on a regular basis in your life. Um, you have to first know that you matter, you have value, and start with the fundamentals and the basics of just setting yourself apart and shutting down the noise. Eliminating those things that distract you, that relatively speaking might be important, but to center yourself and to get in tune so that you can live from within instead of living from without. And it's an empowering experience, and you'll reap those benefits long term in mind, body, and spirit. So be comfortable with starting with the basics. Full transformation, to use a colloquialism, ain't gonna happen overnight. But over time, you'll see those benefits.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Jamal. And Dr. Enix?
Yes, I have a tip.
Mm-hmm.
It is a YouTube experience. How yoga changes the brain and can transform your life, by Eddie Stern, Stern.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Well, Dr. Enix and Mr. William Jamal Miller, this has been absolutely outstanding. I thank you for your wisdom. I thank you for sharing and letting us look into a glimpse of your life that led you to a meditation practice. And I know that our viewers are going to be transformed and changed by what you have shared today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Van.
Thank you. And so on closing, I was going to do a meditation with affirmations, but our guests have given us so much wisdom. So I'm going to put those affirmations in the chat. And I just ask that you say them. There may be some that resonate more with you than others, but you'll have 40 to choose from. Okay. And I just want to share this one for you. And that is, in order to take care of others, you must take care of yourself. Okay. So I am here every first and third Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. We ask that you like and share this program. Leave comments. I do read them and will respond to your questions. Subscribe so that you'll know when new programming is available. I have a site, regalahealing.com, where you can learn more about my healing and self-care work and resources. I believe we have a graphic that shows my book, Regala Healing, that has 100 healing poems that you can also use as a basis for your meditation. Just scan the QR code and it'll lead you to my site and the resources as well. And as we end today, again, I thank Dr. Coinus Enix and Mr. William Jamal Miller for joining us today. And I just would love to say I bid you love and light until I see you the next time.